Bitcoin might just be ready for a bigger jump to come to the downside before we see higher prices. Let me explain why in this very simple update. But first of all, as usual, if you recap what happened since our previous update, if you remember, we had seen the bounce of our support level at $67,000 and Bitcoin was sitting just below $75,000. And what I said was that I was expecting higher prices, Bitcoin was looking very bullish, and this was not a market to short in my opinion. And the only interesting level that I marked out to the upside was the $80,000 psychological level. So if I just mark it out again, it was the first major psychological level at $80,000. But what happened? Bitcoin moved up and simply continued higher. What I said on the Discord was very simply, as you can see, we got the move up towards $80,000, and personally I was definitely not shorting this because again, Bitcoin was still looking very bullish and this was still not a market to short in my opinion. So back to the charts, what happened today was actually very simple. Bitcoin simply made its way towards the next major psychological level, which was $90,000. And as you can see, this is where Bitcoin is now dropping from. So with that said, what can you expect next? Well, the first thing that I want to say is very simply that on the higher time frames, Bitcoin is still looking very bullish. So personally, I am still bullish, I'm expecting higher prices, and I do believe that Bitcoin could make its way towards $100,000. So again, on the higher time frames personally, I do remain bullish and expect higher prices. However, on the lower time frames, what happened is that since our support level at $67,000, Bitcoin has moved up over 30% and hasn't offered any retracement yet. So what it's done is simply move higher and higher and higher and higher. So at this point, at least in my view, it doesn't really make sense to say that this was simply the drop that we're going to see on Bitcoin and now it's ready to go higher. Again, in my view, Bitcoin is extremely overextended and it's very probably time for the markets to cool off. So personally, what I'm expecting here is lower prices, but also slow movements. So what you could get is a bit of raging for the next couple of days, lower prices, and then we might see a reversal higher. So with all of this in mind, what levels do we have below us? Well, the first two levels are pretty simple in my opinion. It would be first the open of this daily imbalance, which comes in at $80,500, and then we also have the open of this 12-hour candle, which comes in at $76,700. And in my view, these two levels will be very important, so just keep an eye on them. But then, more locally, if I go on the 15-minute chart, what I would like to see at least before we see a potential move higher is the fill of these 15-minute imbalances, which come in at $84,900. And Bitcoin still hasn't completely filled these imbalances. And that's why at this point, I am still expecting lower prices towards at least $84,900. And if we lose this level, I would like to see a move towards at least $80,400. So with this in mind, that was mainly it for this update. As I said, it would be a very simple one. So a quick recap, on the higher time frames, Bitcoin is extremely overextended and it does make sense to expect a bit of a cool off in the markets. And that's why at this point, as we've seen the rejection of the psychological level at $90,000, it does make sense to expect lower prices. More locally, we have a first level at $84,800, but then lower. If we lose this level, I would like to see a move towards at least $80,500, and then we have another pretty important level at $76,700. However, again, one last point, I don't expect this move to be very quick. What I would like to see is a bit more consolidation, so maybe a drop, a bit of a bounce, another drop, another bounce, and then we have a final drop. And if we see a nice reaction, this could offer a pretty nice long position for higher prices to come. So with all of that said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this update. And as usual, if you have any questions, I'm available inside the Discord. So see you soon everyone, and good luck.